Greetings, non-feminist men and women everywhere. Today is Monday, November 2nd, 2015. Welcome to the Vanguard Report, episode number 69. Now, just like we did last week, I'm going to briefly review the three basic questions which the Vanguard Report is based upon, which establishes the frame of reference for everything we talk about here. And those questions are: 1. What is feminism? 2. Where do we stand? 3. What is to be done? Now, the first question: what is feminism? If we are at war with feminism, as if we were at war with anything else, we got to know our enemy. Who are we fighting this war with? What is feminism really? Well, we try to answer that question. We got to answer it, and we got to get everybody on the same page about what that answer is, and then we can work together. Question number 2, where do we stand? Well, you just got to keep up with the changing situation. Things are changing fast, and you got to know where it's at if you want to know where to go next. In other words, if you want to answer the third question, which is what is to be done? Where do we turn politically next in our struggle? Now, today we are going to focus especially on question number 3, the what is to be done question. And we're going to talk a bit about, in fact, quite a bit about just what you might do out there in boots on the ground land beyond the internet. Of course, we will never totally leave the internet behind. The internet is just so useful, but we got to spread out. We got to get out beyond the internet, and we got to cut the AV/FM umbilical cord and begin to spawn centers of activity that can survive on their own and continue to thrive and prosper on their own. And it'd be nice to have some kind of a general pattern about what this activity will look like. So we're going to get into that a little bit. But first, here is Nick Redding, man of Canada, information worker in the city of Edmonton, Ontario, proprietor of the Men's Rights Edmonton project. Nick, say hello to the people.
Hey everybody, it's Edmonton, Alberta, actually, as I am a true son of the Alberta prairie.
I'm sorry, Nick, did I say something other than Alberta?
Ontario.
I'm sorry, Nick.
It's fine. What I do, my function in the non-feminist revolution is to attract activated non-feminists, such as anti-feminists, men's rights activists, MGTOW, red pillars, even PUAs if they want to come and meet me, and introduce them to each other on an informal social level. Men's Rights Edmonton is not an organization. It is not a club or a group or a team. It is just the name of my website, my email address, and my YouTube channel, and my Twitter, all of which I use to let people know that I am active in the fight against feminism here in Edmonton, and you are also active in that fight, and you would like to meet others of like mind, you can drop me a line through any of my social media presences. So mensrightsedmonton at gmail.com is probably the fastest way, or you can just go right to Men's Rights Edmonton and find the Contact Us button.
Well, sounds like Men's Rights Edmonton is not a group but a junction where many roads come together.
Yeah, when the tagline for the website was originally, I don't know if it is anymore, I should check, was the online muster point for Edmonton's MRA community.
Okay. And of course, you don't have to be an MRA to go to Edmonton and talk to Nick. For example, I'm not an MRA, and if I was anywhere near Edmonton, I would certainly go there and talk to Nick. So, if you're in the neighborhood of Edmonton, Alberta, Ontario, I'm sorry, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, anytime, drop in and say hello to Nick Redding, true son of the Alberta Prairie. So today, you know, Nick, man, there's been some really, really, really heavy shit going down in regard to the Red Pill movie and Cassie J. Have you been keeping tabs on that?
Yeah, who's really keeping a close eye on it is our good friend David Stroll.
Well, yeah, I know. But I'm not worried about looking at the world through that particular lens. I'm thinking about our lens here. David Futrell is very, very unhappy right now. I can tell that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got Cassie J, who is, she's easy on the eyes, first of all. She's a real looker, and she's got some really good films under her belt.
Better looking than David Futrell?
Well, that is a hard feat, but I think she might even be better looking than David Futrell.
Okay.
But she's a very accomplished filmmaker as well.
Would you say she's an empowered woman?
I would. And she's also a feminist apostate.
Well, it looks like she's moving in that direction. Let's not speak too hastily here. But
well, something that I noticed, or something somebody else pointed out, and then I looked at, was that when she introduces MRAs, so to speak, they've got their name behind superimposed over a red pill. And then when she talks to feminists, they've got their name superimposed over a blue pill. And then when she's doing her video diaries,
the purple pill,
it has her name, over a purple pill. So and that's the thing, is that when she talks about this, she says that her producer insisted that she make her video diaries part of the film. That she which is not something that she had initially considered, right? But the reason he wanted that is because she reportedly goes through something of a transformation, and she really struggles with the values that she's held for a long time.
This experience of making the movie has put her through some changes, apparently.
Yeah, and she, I watched a hangout with her and the Ralph Retort and Janet Bloomfield, and she says that there actually are feminists backing the film. It wasn't that every single feminist that she went to shut her down, but I mean, a lot of the national film grants that we have here in Canada, like the NFB, I'm assuming NFB turned her down. Like she went to a lot of the people that would have backed big backers that backed her films before, and this time they wouldn't do it unless they could have creative control, right? They wanted to make a hit piece about the men's rights movement, and she wanted to continue in her tradition of being
independent, open-minded, letting the audience make up their own mind.
Yeah.
So,
and even though, like, taking on things like gay marriage, right? And I would assume, being that she's a feminist, she would be in favor of gay marriage, right? But you know, when she would interview the religious right, who were opposed to gay marriage, and the LGBT advocates, um, you know, they both wanted everybody to see what the debate was, what the argument was, and people left the theater not knowing what side she was on, which I think is a very difficult thing to do when you make a documentary, right? But the um, uh, with this one, because she was also on a hangout with Milo Yiannopoulos, it was called #Big Milo, and everybody was on it actually. Um, but she, she Milo asked her, she's been involved in all these controversies before, um, but never before has the one side given her shit for giving the other side a platform, letting people even hear what they have to say.
Mm-hmm. But now they're doing it.
Yeah, yeah, this is a first for her, which was
because
also
feminism is some kind of a third rail in the culture today. There's something about feminism. You can be open-minded about a lot of things, but somehow you can't quite be open-minded about feminism, or you better not try. There is something about feminism.
yeah, and this is why what it is something like this is why I say I take the position in our community that almost nobody else does, that every single feminist is knowingly participating in a con job. You know, you've got people like Janice Pimengo and Cassie J who have really upon examining uh, upon really examining things, they've they've stopped towing the line, right?
I would not quite go so far as to compare Cassie J at this point in her life with Janice Fiamengo.
Well, no, I mean Janice Fiamengo has gone like full steam ahead, and really
She's gone further.
She's really giving feminism both barrels, right?
Maybe come back in 10 or 15 years or something, and Cassie J will go full Fiamengo on us. You never know.
Well, that's not even important. What it is that she's not. She's presumably become non-feminist, or at least
At least stand up and say, no, I'm not a feminist.
Or she still
I don't want to identify with the feminist label anymore.
She still might identify as a feminist, but she'd be more like a Christina Hoff Sommers feminist in all likelihood.
Yeah.
And
we could safely put her in the category of unicorn feminist.
Yeah, yeah. But the thing is, the reason that I say that I think that they're all knowingly participating in the con job is because now that there is such widespread criticism of feminism, they don't really have any excuse to be ignorant. Like there might have been, again,
they've at least got to know that something's going on.
Well,
whereas in the past they could deny that they even knew there was a controversy.
Yeah, and once the Cassie Jays and the Janice Fiamengos of the movement find out what the problem is, then they're honest people, and they're willing to say, okay, things aren't the way I thought they were.
That's going to open up a big tectonic fault line.
Yeah.
Among feminists, right there. There's going to be a lot of feminists who don't want to make that leap of honesty.
Well, and
admit that there is an issue, and make it part of their world.
That's what attracted most feminists to feminism in the first place, right?
Because it gave them a place to hide, I think.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, it's so. I mean, even when I was in third grade, right back in 1983, I could see. I was 8 years old. I could see that this stuff was bullshit, and so could the other little boys in my class. And we would speak up about it when our teachers were doing, like, announcing girls scholarships for the STEM field, girls only scholarships and things like that, talking about how we have to do more to introduce more women into these fields. And we spoke up about that, but then we were quickly told that our feminists, or our teachers rather, weren't perpetrating sexism, but they were correcting it.
And at that stage of your life, you just didn't have the intellectual ammunition to go up against that argument.
Well, no, and just like, yeah, I was 8.
Well, I would say at age 8 you were long on attitude and short on analysis. I think most of us were at that age.
Yeah, yeah, and but I mean, I just kind of knew that it was nonsense, and
Yeah,
couldn't
it was
really,
a gut feel. It was a gut feeling for you.
yeah, couldn't argue with the teacher. Well, it wasn't just a gut feeling. I mean, I would watch because my mom would always go on about the way women were treated, and I was like, well, I don't know. Like whenever I watch TV shows and some woman says that men are pigs or men are dogs or men are scum, she's almost all universally greeted with a laugh track. Like I don't know. I mean, I could just sort of see it, and I just always knew it was nonsense. And I think that the that's the value of feminism, is that it is clearly contrary to reality. As Ernest Belford Bax put it in 1913. I was going to paraphrase here, but that not only is feminism just a perversion of the truth, but it stands in direct opposition to the truth. And getting it's something that control freaks love to have, because they're telling you something that you can plainly see is not so. But you have to go along with it. And that's dominating another person's mind, I think.
You have to go along with it. You cannot speak out against it.
Yeah.
You have to keep it to yourself.
Yeah. And or do some sort of weird doublethink where you think yourself that they are telling the truth.
Well, once you got to that stage, man, they got you whipped.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. But yeah, that I think is the value in it. The con job is telling you that a green wall is orange, and if you speak out against it, then you're in trouble. I think that is purely a flex move. I think that's what it is.
Well, as you were saying a couple of minutes ago, people are not afraid, not offended to be open-minded in regard to all manner of controversial subjects, just as long as feminism is not one of those subjects. So I'm just really impressed by that, and I can't help thinking, once again, that there is something, uniquely special about feminism that has that kind of potency in the collective psyche. That really is a third rail. Why feminism? There's something to be found here, something to be discovered, something to be uncovered. And I think our business is to do just exactly that, to uncover, what's the deal with feminism? Why does it have such a hold on the collective psyche? And I think our job is to expose that and then watch the explosions that follow. And it could get interesting. And this latest development with the Red Pill movie with Cassie J and all of it, this is huge. You can tell. It's still in the early stages. And the way they are reacting, they are going into borderline hysteria. They really, really don't like this. Is a threat. I can just sense David Futrell is shitting his knickers, sobbing in a corner, drinking rot gut whiskey right now. This could blow the lid off their worldview. Something like this gets out into the public, gets out into the general culture, the popular discourse, and becomes a fixture of everybody's mental landscape now. This means that non-feminism, lack of feminism, opposition to feminism in whatever form is to become a permanent player on the cultural game board. It's there, it's a factor, it's a datum, something that can't be ignored or talked around anymore. And this Red Pill movie, as I see it now, has the potential to make just that sort of thing come to pass. This is why it's so big. And I think this bears watching. As time goes on, it's going to get more and more interesting and more heated. And, you know, I actually do have some concerns for the safety of Cassie J. I think there's some people out there who are just crazy enough to do something crazy. I really do. You don't think so?
I don't know. I mean, yeah.
I mean, yes, they're going to make threats. They're going to do all kinds of nasty things. But there's somebody out there who's going to, you know, push it to the next level beyond that. I think it's a possibility.
Yeah, I think we are getting closer and closer to something like
Cassie
that.
J is going to be in the kind of, could be in the kind of danger that Anita Sarkeesian was never in.
Yeah, claims to be.
Claims to be, and well, except in the case of Cassie, it's a claim with some validation behind it.
Well, I hope he's.
Well, of course we hope not, but I mean,
but the thing is,
this is really hitting them where they live. I can smell, I can feel and smell their fear. You know, I have the empathy to be able to pick up on that.
But feminists also know how powerful a victim narrative is. They know that once you, if they were to do something violent to Cassie J, who is again a good-looking blonde woman, I think that sympathy for them would be gone pretty quick.
I'm not saying the majority of feminists out there or social justice warriors would actually do anything untoward or even contemplate doing anything, but there's just enough people out there who are just far enough out in crazy land that they might, and then the feminists and the social justice side, they're going to you know, it's like Elliot Rodger coming around and biting them on the ass.
Well, frankly,
on their side of the playing field.
I think if crazies on that side were going to do something, they would have done it to me a couple of years ago or Paul Elam by now.
No, I don't think so, Nick, because you or Paul Elam are not on a scale of what, and no disrespect to either you or Paul, but what you're doing is kind of an apples and oranges comparison to what's going down with Cassie J in this movie. I really do. It's a different order of magnitude.
Yeah, but I've been personally threatened by a crazy, or like in me.
Oh, I've been threatened. I've occasionally met crazy people in my life who have threatened me in one way or another.
No, but I mean, like a social justice warrior.
Not social justice warriors per se, but I have occasionally dealt with crazy people.
Yeah, no, I mean,
who have done threatening things to me. Yes.
Someone saw me putting up Men's Rights Edmonton stickers, and we had a conversation. And then as he left, and this guy was clearly like mental hospital material. He obviously didn't like what I was doing, and as he left, he said next time he wouldn't be so merciful. So, I mean,
I think that possibility is certainly there for Cassie J, and to a higher degree than it is for you, Nick. I really do, considering the magnitude of what's going on here.
It's
what Cassie's involved in.
But in any case, there's
more at stake here with this Cassie J thing on a much larger scale than some guy in Edmonton, sticking up stickers that somebody doesn't like.
Yeah, fair enough. But let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. Tonight, we're going to talk about what you can do or what you might do. I mean, we got to start spreading out. We need to. Not telling anybody what to do here, but I am just expressing what's in my own mind, my own ideas and my own concerns. We should begin to think about the web of operations. We need to move out into the real world. We need to develop viable communities, groups, entities, power structures to counter the feminist power structure. We got to start planting the seeds and growing it out in the real world, the boots on the ground world, the in-your-face world, the world of everyday life, the physical world, I mean, where people actually stand in front of each other in their physical bodies and look at each other. That world, which is not what we're not the world we're quite functioning in right now. So we're going to address the question, the third of the three questions: what is to be done? We're going to sketch a sort of master plan, if you want to call it that, in broad stroke. We think it's time to spread out into the real world beyond the internet and start taking down feminism in the grassroots theater of operations. What are we trying to accomplish in the long run? I will give you the short and skinny. We are trying to disestablish the feminist worldview. Disestablish. That means to take something which is presently established, that is to say, something which is presently the establishment, and turn it into something else, so it's no longer the establishment. The feminist worldview, that's the feminist way of looking at the world. The self-contained bubble of logic which defines participation in the feminist project on the level of its membership. That's the feminist worldview. The feminist worldview is hegemonic in the world. It is the governing paradigm, the governing mythology of most of the world these days, the Western world in particular, but certainly spreading out into the rest of the world also. Feminism is hegemonic, feminism is the establishment, and every establishment is upheld by a worldview, and the feminist worldview upholds the feminist establishment. If we disestablish feminism, we disestablish the feminist worldview. Oh boy, that's the short and skinny. We are trying to disestablish the feminist worldview. It's really just that simple. Now, we all love to laugh at those idiots who quote us the dictionary definition of feminism. You know, the one about equality, or men and women should be equal, you know, that definition. Okay. Of course, we have deconstructed the definition and problematized the nature of the word equality. We've done that plenty of times. We believe that equality itself is the problem, not the equality of the thing, because equality of the thing does not exist. Only equality of the word exists. And it's the semantics, the linguistics of the word equality which is the source of the problem, the source of the mental delusion which now traps us. There is really no such thing as equality. We're chasing a rainbow. We're chasing a mirage there. We're just talking empty rubbish, empty stuff and nonsense when we natter on and on about this equality thing. But that's what the dictionary definition says. All the dictionary definitions of feminism that I have seen all pivot around the word equality, or the concept of equality in some way. And the people who throw the dictionary definition of feminism at us, they are idiots, because they evidently think that we non-feminist people, are idiots. They think we're idiots. They seriously believe that we still can't see what feminism is, even after 50 years of getting feminism shoved into our faces. After all of that, and apparently, according to these idiots, we still don't know what feminism is. After all those practical, daily, lived experience lessons, we still don't friggin' know what feminism is. Oh boy. Really now, what kind of idiots do these idiots think we are? We ought to know what feminism is by now. I mean, we've had abundant time to study it in the wild and take notes and swap notes with each other. We ought to have a handle on the question, what is feminism, by now. But anyway, yeah, feminism is more than an abstract list of ideas. It is more than just theoretical. It is practical. It happens not just in theory, but in practice, in the realm of actions and actors, in the realm of deeds and doers. And so, consequently, it happens in the realm of consequences and the consequences of consequences, which spread collaterally, ecologically into nearly every department of life. And that's a damn sight more than a sentence in a dictionary, all of that. Wouldn't you say so? Yes, feminism is a way of living, or at least it's a thing which imposes conditions upon the business of living. But more than that, it is a way of thinking and a thing which imposes conditions upon the business of thinking. So in the end, feminism is a way of viewing the world. It is a worldview, in other words. And like any other worldview, the feminist worldview operates within limits of shared understanding and understood possibility. Anything outside of those limits is simply not understood, hence not understood to be possible. It's critical to understand that any worldview operates within certain limits of understood possibility. And every society or culture operates within such limits too, because every society or culture is based upon a worldview of one kind or another. Now, feminism is not only a culture within itself. It is a culture which dominates most of world civilization today, not only in the West, but pretty much everywhere else. Hence, as of right this minute, as I speak, the feminist worldview has achieved a position of domination over most of planet Earth. Feminism and the feminist worldview are simply the establishment, and that's the easiest way to put it. So to disestablish the feminist worldview means to demote it so that it is no longer the establishment. Feminism started as a cult, or religion, or ideology, or what you will, but it was wildly successful in selling itself to gullible people. And it slowly entrenched itself into a variety of institutions and human communities, and even into the fabric of law and the machinery of government. And most tellingly, the realm of education. University of Toronto, anybody? Now, that is what I call an establishment. Feminism is everywhere, and it hates competition. Feminism hates competition. Like any establishment, feminism has all the power, or most of it anyway, and it has no intention of giving that power up. It has every intention of increasing that power with no limitations of any kind. So it's easy to understand why feminism hates competition. All establishments hate competition. Feminism is the establishment, and it hates competition because it is the establishment. Well, guess what? We're here to give the feminist establishment some competition. Gonna disestablish the establishment? Yeah, that's competition, I would say. We are here to disestablish feminism by disestablishing the main thing which makes feminism feminism in the first place. That's right, we are here to disestablish the feminist worldview. How many times have I said that so far? Well, I say it again and again because I want it to stick in people's brains. We are here to disestablish the feminist worldview. Nope, not here to fight for men's rights. We are here to disestablish the feminist worldview, along with all the consequences that may follow from disestablishing the feminist worldview. All of the collateral effects from disestablishing that worldview. We are here to kick the feminist worldview off of its throne. Simple as that. And how? How do we plan to do this? Well, simple again, by making it, the feminist worldview, compete in the marketplace of ideas, just like any other ideology or belief system. Feminism, yeah, it ain't no special snowflake. It's just another ideology, just another belief system. It can take its lumps just like all the rest. Our project is to nurture a new cultural institution called, are you ready? Our project is to nurture a new cultural institution called the counter-feminist culture of critique. Again, that's the counter-feminist culture of critique. We got to kickstart that thing to life, that counter-feminist culture of critique. I don't know, maybe I should call it a tradition rather than an institution, but at any rate, we got to get that thing happening, that counter-feminist culture of critique. We got to make it spread. We got to make it stick. So, what is to be done? What is to be done is to cultivate the counter-feminist culture of critique. That counter-feminist culture of critique, why, it's an upsurge of sheer, unmitigated intellectual audacity and gumption by growing numbers of people everywhere that will put every aspect of feminism, all of its claims and theories, right down to the epistemological bedrock. All of it. Put it all under the harsh interrogation lamp of critical scrutiny and, yes, even mockery by the plebeians. Full-scale intellectual insurgency from all quarters to all quarters. That is the counter-feminist culture of critique. That's what I'm talking about. The culture of critique is a project in the works, an anticipated future state where opposition to feminism and all manner of criticism of it will become normativized, mainstream, respectable, and commonplace pretty much anywhere you go. That's the ideal. Call this breaking the silence. The sheer number of people involved will make it impossible for any feminist repression to operate. And feminists themselves will have no choice but grin and bear it and suck it up. The culture of critique may be considered a manifestation of the non-feminist breakout. When the culture of critique is happening, you know the non-feminist breakout is happening. It has broken out. Now, a sub-project within the culture of critique is what we call the intellectual audit of feminism. We're going through feminism's books, line by line, checking things out, seeing how they add up. The intellectual audit of feminism. You can't rely on feminists themselves to intellectually audit feminism. You need an outside auditor to go in there and look through those books, my friend. And that outside auditor, well, that's all of us. The intellectual audit of feminism is the ongoing project to scrutinize exhaustively and at great length all feminist claims and theories. All feminist claims and theories with a view to determining their ultimate truth value and recontextualizing them as necessary. It is reckoned that the intellectual audit of feminism will take many years, and until this project has been rigorously carried to completion, no feminist claim or theory is bound to be accepted by anybody. Let me say that again. Until the project has been rigorously carried to completion, no feminist claim or theory is bound to be accepted by anybody. This takes effect right now, right this minute as I speak. That's the intellectual audit of feminism. The audit is an entry-level project open to all non-feminist men and women. But the participation of degree-holding academics, especially the tenured kind, is especially sought and encouraged, as is the establishment of an institutional beachhead on the university campus. And boy, that's where they're going to fight us, tooth and nail. I mean, as we've already seen. And we ain't seen nothing yet. So I guess you could say that the intellectual audit of feminism is the elite or highbrow bureau of the culture of critique. The plebes will have their crude folk humor, of course, and the intellectuals will discourse in more elevated tones, but it's all the same device. It's all the culture of critique by the end of the day. So there you have it. We aim to establish the counter-feminist culture of critique within which will be a specialized task force called the intellectual audit. All right? People like Janice Fiamengo of the University of Ottawa. I would count Janice as a leading member at this point in time of the intellectual audit of feminism, and she's a classic person for that position, being a tenured academic. And boy, is she ever critiquing feminism. So Janice Fiamengo, welcome to the intellectual audit of feminism. You're a good auditor. One more time then. It's the cultural critique and the intellectual audit. We got to get that happening. So we aim to establish the counter-feminist culture of critique everywhere, all across the cultural terrain, from all quarters to all quarters, from the ivory tower all the way down to the gutter. It's all good. We also aim, quite frankly, to cut the AVFM umbilical cord and to encourage local autonomous centers of action that will move the struggle increasingly away from the internet and toward the physical world of everyday life, face to face, what we call for short the street. We need to cultivate a network of real-life operations that will work to disestablish the feminist worldview within every industry, occupation, institution, geographic region, tribe, ethnicity, race, religion, culture, subculture, or human community that you can imagine. As you might guess, this work will involve sharing information to either put feminism directly in a bad light or to undermine the feminist worldview in a precursory way. Whatever works, works. The work will also involve the slow, patient building up of social infrastructure and social capital. This will follow the true revolutionary pattern where both average people and people highly placed in institutional structures, both groups will be effectively in cahoots with each other in terms of getting the job done at all levels of society. The social infrastructure that we develop in the course of dismantling feminist power will naturally carry over into the post-feminist world and make part of the foundation of that world. Now, where does all of this begin? In a practical way, where does it all begin? Well, it begins with you and with your politically like-minded friends. Start forming politically oriented, non-feminist groups and communities in whatever cultural neck of the woods you inhabit. You know the local reality better than anybody else. You know the people of your own peer group better than anybody else in terms of what appeals to their sensibilities and what doesn't. Yes, you speak the local language and you understand the local issues. That is your local expertise. Use your local expertise to make this revolution grow wherever it gets planted. The strict anti-feminist approach, as opposed to the more traditional men's rights approach, offers advantages. Politically speaking, strict anti-feminism is a tool which can reach into certain corners where men's rights rhetoric cannot reach. And there are further advantages to the strict anti-feminist approach, but we'll save that for some other conversation. The point is, let's face it, that the majority of people will respond lackadaisically at best if you harangue them about obscure concepts like gynocentrism. You might find it more profitable to rally these people around a different banner. These people, you might find it profitable to rally them around a different banner. So, here's a hot tip. Anti-feminism is going mainstream. Anti-feminism is a hot stock which is set to appreciate. That's right. A lot of people are waking up to the feminist problem these days, to the scope of that problem. And if you appeal to them on that level, you'll get a lot more takers than if you rattle on about men's rights, especially since so many people have had their minds poisoned, regretfully, on that subject. The basic idea is to just say, hey, feminism is a serious problem. Look at what feminism is doing to the world. Look at how feminism is wrecking normal relations between men and women and poisoning society in so many ways. Look at what incorrigible parasites the feminists are. Do you think they are ever going to change? Do you think that all of this pathology will go away all by itself if we don't proactively do something about it, intervening in some way? The focus should be on feminism's wrongs rather than on men's rights. The focus should be on how feminism affects everybody, not just men. Of course, it very conveniently just so happens that most of feminism's wrongs are wrongs against men. And when this fact becomes clear to people, a lot of them will finally transition toward the classic men's rights way of thinking. Hurrah! Now, others won't, but that's okay. You can still guide those people in useful directions. So, you want to form a group and do something, but you're not quite sure what that something might be? Okay. They also serve who only stand and wait. The fact that you have a group at all, and the fact that you are able to meet and talk, is quite an accomplishment in the realm of building social infrastructure. So, you've done a lot already, but other than that, your first order of business is to educate yourselves, to inform yourselves, so that you can define your group as a study circle. That's what you can call your group. That's what you're doing. You're conducting a study circle. And study circles are a time-honored tradition among revolutionaries. It's just one model of how revolutions get built. For quite a while, you might do very little more than reading books and articles and memorizing stuff and discussing what you've read and memorized in your meetings, and then writing articles of your own and discussing them in your meetings. And after you have supercharged your brains for a while, you will start to get ideas about reaching into the community beyond your group. It'll just happen. When the time is ripe, it will simply happen. It will just click and fall into place for you. You'll start to get ideas, and then one day you'll say, "Hey man, let's try that idea. I know just the thing to do. Let's go out and do it." And you will. You'll go out there and you'll do something, whatever that might turn out to be. That'll be your first piece of activism. And it will be a heady experience for you. And once you've done the first one, then you'll get more ideas for the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And that's where the snowball starts to grow. But remember your primary mission. It is to disestablish the feminist worldview by generating a counter-feminist culture of critique in the world. When feminism is openly attacked and undermined from every direction, in every sector of society, it will ultimately collapse because it will be powerless to suppress the rising tide of free speech. When people everywhere are standing up to feminism, mocking it, thumbing their noses at it, undermining it and deconstructing it in every way imaginable, and not even giving a damn who sees them doing this, then the feminist power structure will either explode like a supernova or wilt like a buttercup. But either way, it will not endure. Feminism literally cannot survive if it is subjected to the free marketplace of ideas. That's it. It literally cannot survive under those conditions. For feminism, that kind of an environment is toxic. And feminism subjected to that kind of environment will very soon expire. The non-feminist breakout will be a tipping point in the non-feminist revolution, where people who are not feminists, abstainers from feminism, people who say no to feminism, will find, finally, the self-assurance and strength in numbers to openly voice their indifference to feminism or their opposition to it. If people are continually raising objections and demanding answers, it will be impossible for feminism to keep growing. And if it cannot keep growing, it will simply die. Full stop. Feminism is perpetual revolution, and it literally cannot exist if it stops moving. Feminism's being consists in being in motion. Remember that. Feminism that is not moving in the direction of continual growth is not feminism anymore. It's just gone. And when feminism stops moving at any point, stops growing at any point, if by any combination of force it is blocked from doing this, then it will collapse in a poof with a whole lot of drama and noise, I'm sure, and that'll be the end of it. And all of the evil which it has inflicted on the world will in that moment be exposed to the pitiless, disinfecting sunlight of the world's gaze. You want to stop feminism, just block its forward motion. by any conventional or unconventional method that may occur to you. That's it. Feminism is motion and growth. Block that. Bye-bye. No more feminism. Game over. I'd like to add a few concluding thoughts here. When you start your little group, when you begin with your study circle and you nurse it along and build up from there and then work out toward your first little projects and then your next little projects, and you start to grow and grow, and eventually you start reaching out and networking with other groups who are doing other things elsewhere. What you want to do, you want to write some kind of a manifesto or a mission statement applied to just your group. This manifesto, this mission statement, is what we call a bulkhead statement. Now, that's a rather unusual name. What do I mean by a bulkhead statement? Well, a bulkhead is a wall, a compartmentalizing containment wall inside the hull of a ship that divides the space inside the hull of the ship into separate little compartments, little cubicles. The bulkhead is, it's the walls inside the hull of a ship that divides the hull into separate spaces. That's it. That's a bulkhead. In principle, a bulkhead is any kind of containment device that stops something from moving at a certain point. Anything, whatever it is, it stops at the bulkhead and doesn't go any further. And so you, in effect, create spaces which are sealed off from damaging or inconvenient influences from beyond that space. And this can be a handy thing. For example, in the hold of a ship, you might have bulkheads in there to contain the cargo in the hold from shifting around and tumbling around when the ship gets into heavy seas. Or if the hull gets breached at some point and the ocean starts running in, it'll just run into one little containment area within the bulkheads and it won't go any further. And so the damage of the bad influence is minimized. Now, the bulkheading effect of a bulkhead statement is more metaphorical. It's along a political line. By making a statement, a mission statement or manifesto for your group, you are giving yourself an identity. You are taking control of your identity as a group. You're saying what you stand for, and equally important, you're saying what you don't stand for. You are saying, this is us, we are this is what we say. And writing a bulkhead statement is your big chance to make very clear what you are, so nobody out there can, at least technically, mix you up or confuse you with somebody else or conflate you with somebody else. So you ought to give a lot of careful thought to the composition of your bulkhead statement. Really, really put some effort into it. Put on your thinking cap when you write that thing. It should express what is most essential about you. And priority number one when you write a bulkhead statement, very first thing, right at the top of the statement, should be an open and unambiguous, clearly stated commitment to non-violence. Make a big public commitment to non-violence. State clearly that you do not condone or tolerate violent action by your members or by anybody else. This should, somewhat vaccinate you against the Elliot Rodger effect. So if the next Elliot Rodger comes along and does something really horrific, then you can say, well, right here in our statement, we clearly condemn violence. So don't you try to Elliot Rodger us, mister. See? Everybody should have a bulkhead statement then, expressing all of their first principles, their core principles, and topping it all off with a clear commitment to non-violence, which should be the very first principle of all. Now, the problem that people of the non-feminist revolution, or the more organized or more conscious parts of that revolution, have had in the past is that there has been no bulkhead statement. It's been a bunch of people talking, and unfortunately their talk was overheard by other people, both by the enemy and by the lay public out there. And the public, all the outsiders, having no clear guide to know what should be taken seriously and what should not, what was really meant and what was not. They just do a composite average. They do a big old impressionistic mashup of all the stuff that they hear, and then they create an artificial construct in their mind about what a so-called men's rights activist is. And this creature called the men's rights activist, which so many people have cobbled together in their minds, is really nothing more than a figment of the imagination. It's a mental construct by outside observers. In reality, what you have is a whole bunch of individual people saying a whole bunch of individual things. They sometimes agree with each other, they sometimes don't. But we are now stuck with this phony baloney construct called the men's rights movement, or the MRA, or whatever you want to call it. And, you know, a lot, or I should say in the early stages, if we had done some thoughtful bulkheading, a lot of that trouble could have been avoided. Okay, now, bulkhead statements are not an absolute cure-all. I mean, sure, they're still going to try to smear you. They're still going to try to conflate you. But at least you've got some element of control, some handle on it. You're not totally at their mercy. When you've got a document right there in black and white, you can point to it and say, no, mister, this is my statement. Here, read it. This is what I stand for. I don't know what that guy over there stands for, but this here is what I stand for, and this is what all the people who signed to this statement stand for. So get the facts straight, okay? I recommend bulkhead statements for everybody. Everybody out there should write a bulkhead statement. Even if it's just for you, you can write your own individual bulkhead statement. It doesn't have to be a group statement. But I'd like to see bulkhead statements proliferating everywhere. And then we who oppose feminism, we anti-feminists, critical non-feminists, men's rights activists, whatever the hell flag we sail under, we can all begin to establish ourselves as separate entities with individual separate identities within the ecosystem of the non-feminist sector. So, everybody, do yourself a favor, do me a favor, do us all a favor, and write a bulkhead statement. Oh, and be sure to include the part about nonviolence right at the beginning. We got to pound the drum of nonviolence. Sounds pretty peaceful, right? Pound the drum of nonviolence. Okay. I'm tired of talking. Nick, anything you want to say?
Yeah, you know, like starting a group. With me, you know, I didn't want. Men's Rights Edmonton became a group for a while, a very informal group, and that's it's not that way anymore. But if you go and watch my first video, I stated quite clearly that we weren't a group, and it's but the thing is, even before you start a group, and there are excellent templates, there are existing groups you can join, such as the National Coalition for Men. You could probably start a chapter in your own hometown. Just contact them, asking them how you would go about doing that. You can, if you're going to university, you can set up a Zen Men chapter. Contact Sage Gerard about that. And of course, you can try Canadian Association for Equality if you're in Canada. Contact Cafe. and again, with cafe, they are non-ideological, so therefore non-feminist, and a lot of what they do does criticize feminism, but that is not their specific mandate. Uh, so, although they do a lot of what they do to the chagrin of many feminists who consider them MRAs anyway. But yeah, with something like Men's Rights Edmonton or Men's Rights Sydney or Men's Rights Quincy.
Hello, Nick. Are you still there?
Uh-oh.
I think we lost Nick.
We might have. I mean, he's still up here. Still see him.
Still up here. Still see him. Can you hear me now?
I
Yes.
can hear you now.
I can hear you now.
Welcome back.
Okay, yeah,
Welcome back.
for a while there, I can't hear you guys. You can't hear me. I don't know what's going on. I think my internet is just dicky. But anyway, can you hear me now?
We can. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, if you want to start up with things like Men's Rights Edmonton or Men's Rights Quincy or Men's Rights Sydney or whatever it is, you can just set up a website for your city and then advertise it in your city, and anybody else who of like mind can contact you through that website. But you can't. The basic foundation is just having a group of people that you just know. It's just having a community. And even then, you might have differences. You might have creative differences. You might have differences of opinion and all that. But like what we just have monthly meetups, and they're just social gatherings at this point. Although people are starting to, they're taking those social gatherings and they're using them to network. So they are going off 2 by 2 and kind of doing their own activism and starting up their own thing. And that's kind of what I want to see, is just
Hello, Nick.
Yep. It happened again.
Man overboard.
Well, folks, there's not much I can do on my end about it. Sorry about that. This is all Nick's fault. It's his fault
Nick.
that this is happening.
Oh, you, Nick.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
I can hear you now.
God damn it. So yeah, rather than creating a group or anything like that, I just wanted to just plant a beacon in the ground and attract other people and just meet them and talk to them and get them in touch with each other. That if you don't have the skills that Sage Gerard does in terms of creating a group with a mandate. I set up mensrightsedmonton.com as a way of attracting essentially the readership of A Voice for Men together on a geographical level.
Men's Rights Edmonton. Oh, we got an echo issue here.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, Men's Rights Edmonton, for all of you computer geeks out there, is like a USB hub on a computer, which you can plug all kinds of USB plugs into.
Yeah. It's a very basic, rudimentary, just meeting hub. It's basically just an online pamphlet or an electronic pamphlet inviting other people to come hang out with me. And you have to have that very basic thing before you can do anything else. There's no other people. And go out and do pieces of activism with them, so you know what they're, how solid they are and stuff like that. Because it's almost like, almost like starting a gang. Like you need to know who's loyal and who's solid.
Starting a criminal gang, you got to get them to go out and commit a crime with you, and
and
now
so,
you know they're committed.
yeah, so we're going out and committing thought crime.
Thought crime, yes.
And, yeah.
You know, something about this that I like is that, you know, what you've described so far, Nick, it's not something that it does really anybody much good to infiltrate, because there's not much there to infiltrate.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing to be co-opted. I mean,
Just people getting together, and if some infiltrator, some spy gets in there trying to get into the inner circle, they're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, the inner circle is somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
We know where the inner circle is, and it's not at the meeting table of the monthly Men's Rights Edmonton.
Yeah, and it's not even a men's rights Edmonton meeting anymore. It's just a generally politically incorrect meetup, and that's all it is. And yeah, people are going out and setting up, like I said, they're setting up their own thing, which is what I wanted in the first place.
So the infiltrators who want to go really, really deep cover on this will have to come in there and then go off and set up some kind of anti-feminist activism to prove that they're part of the, you know, true blue gang.
Yeah, basically they would have to damage feminism. So,
in order to help feminism, yes.
Yeah, and I don't see that happening, because it's like you know, telling a Christian to spit on the Bible. There's just something about it.
Well, they could, you know, it'd be like some gang of criminals goes and blows up the trains in cahoots with the railroad company, you know, so the railroad company can collect insurance on the train or something like that, you know.
Possibly.
I mean, it could be a, you know, kind of a false flag, fifth column thing. They could go out there and start some violent anti-feminist group, and
yeah, no,
or say terrible things and then discredit anybody who's not feminist. Well, they could do that. I'm just spinning possible scenarios in my mind here, letting my imagination run wild for a minute.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if somebody did go out and do something, like perform some sort of violent anti-feminism,
or even talked violent anti-feminism, they wouldn't have to even take it to the level of action.
Yeah. Well, it would have to be proven that they were connected with us. In order to target, well, no, because people will connect, what's his name, Elliot Rodger to us, even though he had zero connection to us.
Depending on who, and defining, you know, who is us.
Well, he wasn't interested in men's rights or MGTOW or any of that stuff. He was anti-PUA. You know, so
he was a disturbed young man, and the world is full of disturbed young men. And merely, you know, saying that just because you're not a feminist, you are somehow morally implicated with all the disturbed young men in the world, that's pretty sick to talk that way.
Yeah, and but regardless, you know, well, I mean, MRAs, anti-feminists, as it is. I mean, you know, the last violent one, the last one to incorporate violence into his activism that I know of was Mark Lapine. You know, that was in the 80s, and there hasn't been one since.
Mark Lapine was known to, talk bad words about feminism.
And and I mean, you can look as early as what happened in Argentina this recent Women's Day, right?
With the cathedral, the men guarding the church.
Yeah, for the second year in a row. The riot, but this year the riot cops came out with rubber bullets and fucking shields and shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it got worse. Well, the violence is going to escalate as long as feminism's in the world and continues to increase itself and continues to push its innovation. You're going to see more violence.
Yeah,
And the typical pattern is they'll try to blame it on somebody else. They'll always project the blame onto somebody else. But they're the troublemakers. Nick? Hello?
Hi, I'm here. I just had my mic muted. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know, the good news is, I mean, yeah, that's why your feminist, non-feminist dynamic works so well, right? Because you can't lump in absolutely every single critical of feminism in together, like you can't lump every single person who's critical of Christianity into the same group either. Um, it's
People who are critical of feminism, that's a far too big a slice of the population. And you can't afford to offend all of them.
yeah. Yeah, and yeah, so that's the perfect way to go about it, is to attract activated non-feminists. I've explained this before. The only reason I joined the men's rights movement was because I needed a larger for the anti-feminist undertaking I was planning on. I needed a larger group of people to have my back, essentially, which
Yeah.
ABFM certainly has.
Yeah, people to have your back, that's what it's all about. It's not about joining an ideological club. It's just about people who roughly agree with you having your back. Nick?
Yep, still here.
Oh, okay. Seem to be muting your microphone there quite a bit there.
Yeah, well, I got stuff going on in the background here.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so yes, everybody go out and compose your bulkhead statement, like I said earlier. Elliot Rodger wrote his bulkhead statement. He told us what Elliot Rodger was all about. I, for some strange reason, actually read Elliot Rodger's autobiography. Right about the time when that episode happened, I got a hold of it. Elliot Rodger's autobiography. I read the whole damn thing. That was Elliot Rodger's bulkhead statement. That was Elliot Rodger telling the world what Elliot Rodger was all about. If you didn't write Elliot Rodger's manifesto, and if you wrote something different, you wrote your own manifesto, then that's what you're all about. And Elliot Rodger's manifesto is what Elliot Rodger is all about. But having that personal statement is a good thing. It really positions you. And you've got something that you can shove in the face of the world and say, here, this is me. This is me. I am me. This is what I stand for. So I don't stand for what that guy over there stands for. Okay? That's the way to do it. Everybody, please, write a bulkhead statement. Yeah, looks like we've got some time left in the program here. Unless, Nick, you have anything to add, I think we should go on to maybe discussing some of these links that I've laid out.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. Oh, by the way, cue number 5 on the link list. That is something called the Strict Anti-Feminist Manifesto. I don't call it a bulkhead statement, it's just a statement, but it's there. It explains a lot of things, and it fits in with a lot of what we've been talking about on the episode today. So link number 5, go there, read that, and that'll clue you in about a lot of things. So, cue number 1. I better load this up in my browser tab. Normally I do this before the show. This time I didn't. So I got to do it now, and I'm doing it right now as we talk. Here we go. This is from the Telegraph UK. What is this article about? I don't even remember. We'll see. Okay. UK Telegraph. The sexist words your children are no longer allowed to use at school. Teachers are to be issued guidelines from the Institute of Physics detailing the words which are to be banned from the playground. The Institute of Physics has instituted these guidelines trying to control the language of little school children. Why would the Institute of Physics be dabbling in that, I wonder? Sexist language in the playground has been partially blamed for the gender pay gap. Folks, I didn't make that up. That's just what it says right here. Sexist language in the playground has been partially blamed for the gender pay gap. All right. Children as young as 5 are going to be admonished for using language that enforces gender stereotypes as new guidelines are sent to every school in England this Tuesday. We used to say, "Man up, cupcake." We stopped saying that. Saying, "Don't be a girl" to a boy if they are being a bit wet is also unacceptable. Language is a very powerful tool. You have to be conscious of what you are saying to children. School students are no longer allowed to use sexist language to bait each other in the playground, such as "man up" and "go make me a sandwich," and head teachers are being urged to ensure that sexist language is taken as seriously as racist language. So if you tell somebody to make me a sandwich, that's as bad as calling somebody a nigger? Interesting. These guidelines come from a report by the Institute of Physics. In response, some schools are creating volunteer squads. Listen to this. Some schools are creating volunteer squads of girls to police sexist attitudes and report back to teachers. Volunteer language policing squads who monitor your attitude and report back to authority. Nick, is there something you want to say about that? Because I'm at a loss for words right now.
Yeah, that sounds like something. It's squads of girls, is it?
Yes, that's what it says.
Ugh. Oh.
Yeah.
Giving little girls the power to run around policing boys' words.
Well, it doesn't say boys' words here. It just says sexist attitudes. But we know who they're going to be policing, though. We understand that.
Why not put red fucking sashes on?
Yes, like 1984.
Yeah, the Junior Anti-Sex League. That's what this is going to be. That's what this is going to be about.
Squads of girls, little junior feminist league, going around policing people for sexist attitudes and snitching on them to the teachers. This is the kind of world we are creating, folks. As the twig is bent, so the tree is inclined. You start them young. Okay? The pattern of life, the pattern for the world is set in microcosm during childhood, on the schoolyard. That's where it all begins. That's where the seed is planted, and from there it grows. That's the kind of world we're creating. Kids are being trained up to live in this kind of society in the microcosm of the school, and as they grow up, it's going to spread out into society. They're going to spread this stuff into society, this way of thinking into society. The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, so to speak. Oh, let's keep reading this article. Schools are also being asked by the report to appoint teachers as gender champions. I love that one, gender champions. Appointing them with the task of encouraging more girls to take traditionally male subjects such as economics, computer science, and physics at GCSE and A-level, and more boys to take female subjects such as English literature, foreign languages, and psychology. I wonder, are these subjects not equally open to boys and girls already? Or is something already there that's preventing boys from doing the girl stuff and preventing girls from doing the boy stuff? Is that how it works? Or do they have to get the teachers in there intervening in the social life of small children to enforce these norms upon them? Is that how it works? I don't know.
Yeah, the people who are saying that we have the way our lives are is a phony social construct are trying to socially engineer. They're trying to construct the way society ought to be.
Well, they say that life is a phony social construct, but what they are trying to instill upon us is a phony social construct.
Yeah.
There you go. Stereotypes are blamed for the fact that there is a gender divide in the subjects taken at GCSE at A-level. I'm not sure what those things mean. Only 19% of girls who scored an A in GCSE physics studied it at A-level in 2011. This contrasts to the amount of boys, just under half of whom scored an A in physics, studied at A-level in the same year. Now, I'm going to guess they're saying that the boys did better than the girls. And I think they want us to think that this is due to sexism, institutional sexism in the school system that's preventing the girls from performing on a par with the boys. Is that what they're saying or thinking or suggesting? Can't quite make that out.
When they say stereotypes, that's what they mean.
Stereotypes. Okay. Or maybe the stereotypes are just a reflection of reality here. I don't know. I'm not quite clear what they're talking about. Well, stereotype, the gender divide creates the stereotypes. Boys are twice as likely to study maths, 3 times as likely to study further maths, and more than 4 times as likely to take A-level physics. The stereotypes hold true with the female subjects as well. Twice as many girls studied English A-level as boys in 2014, while 70% of psychology A-level students were women. You suppose any of this is even remotely to do with the innate nature of male and female?
Well, yeah, that's what they've shown in Nordic countries, right? They've done everything they can. They've operated on the broken model that all these differences in career choices between men and women are purely the result of social engineering. So they've given men and women as much leeway as they can, right? Encouraging them into non-stereotypical fields. And what they're finding now is that they have the greatest polarities. When you give people the most choice, you give the greatest polarities of men choosing STEM fields and women choosing humanities.
So the Scandinavian countries were our testing fields, and now the results are in.
Well, hold on, they're not testing it, right? It's not a test.
Well, I don't say it is a test, but it is in effect a test. Something has been tested, whether it was intended as such or not.
Well, what I mean is when feminists and social justice warriors, when they implement their ideology, they're not testing it out. If it doesn't work, there's something else wrong. Theory is always right.
Well, in their own minds, they're not testing anything, but the rest of us who are observing from the outside are free to conclude that something has been tested, that an experiment has taken place.
Yeah.
In that sense, I consider it a test. So, the stereotypes hold true with the female subjects as well. Twice as many girls studied A-level, English A-level, as boys in 2014, while 70% of psychology A-level students were women. Claire Thompson of the, yes, I'm sure they're deliberately keeping the boys out of the psychology classes. I'm sure there is a nefarious conspiracy to make that happen. Claire Thompson of the Institute of Physics, who helped to draw up the guidelines, told the Sunday Times, even low-level comments are potentially an issue, with teachers using phrases such as "man up." So that's it. Now I understand. It's because they use these little phrases in the classroom, and this hurts the children's feelings so bad that they're not taking those classes because the mean teacher, said things like cupcake and then man up. Oh, wait a minute. Or is it because the other children are doing that? I don't know. The subject choice gender divide has been partially blamed for the pay gap. Women currently earn 19% less per hour than men, as the female subjects are often thought of as soft subjects and tend to lead to low-paid careers. And here we have a list of banned sexist words and phrases. The phrase "man up" to people who are acting a bit wet. A bit wet. I think that's an Englishism there. I don't know what that means. That's a bit wet. That's a UK colloquialism. Okay. Calling boys sissies. Okay. Well, I don't know what to call a boy who's a sissy other than a sissy. You could invent a euphemism, but it would quickly become apparent that the new word meant the same thing as the old word, and then they would have to ban that word, and you would just be playing euphemism tag, into infinity. What's the point? Calling children or each other cupcake. Oh, terrible to be called cupcake. Yeah, that's pretty bad stuff there, isn't it? Boys telling girls to make them a sandwich. I was in grade school once upon a time, and I cannot remember ever hearing any boy say to any girl, "make me a sandwich," ever. Not to say it never happened, I just don't remember it.
But these are jokes that are coming about now that criticism of feminism is becoming more mainstream.
Oh, that's right. So this is a toxicity of which feminism is the source.
Yeah, like when we tell a sandwich joke, the joke is, I'm a male oppressor, like you're saying, so go do what I'm telling you.
So they're being ironic. I mean, these young lower grade children have already picked up on irony.
Yeah, but of course, I've witnessed this with people. They will suddenly lose the understanding of what it is to tell a joke when you're making fun of feminism. They will take you at face value. They will say that what you're saying is unironic.
No, feminists don't seem to understand irony. Well, no, they do, except when it's inconvenient to them. And in such cases, they will immediately forget that they ever knew anything about irony. If it's your irony, and if it's at their expense, then they don't understand irony. That's how it works. Let's see, what else is on the list here? Boys telling girls to make them a sandwich. Teachers saying to boys, "don't be a girl." Well, what's wrong with saying to somebody, "don't be a girl"? I mean, if you feel it's not appropriate for boys to act like girls, and I guess that's appropriate to tell them, "don't be a girl." Now, matter of opinion there. Calling girls who study male subjects lesbians. I don't know how common that is. How often does a girl who gets into say a shop class or something get called a lesbian? Or a hard science class a lesbian?
By other girls, I don't know.
By other girls, yes. Yes, we got to remember that girls abuse each other If anything, girls abuse, or girls, or just females in general, abuse each other more than they are abused, as much, at least as much, if not more than they are abused by males. But somehow it's just not quite on the radar when women do bad things to each other, because of course that doesn't reflect on men. And for feminism, it's all about prosecuting men for anything you can prosecute them for. I mean, we see this, demonstrated in so many ways, large and small. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of that. And I think that's the end of the article here. But, oh no, it's not quite the end of the article. There's a little bit more here. It says, research funded by the Department for Education in 10 schools found that there was a pattern of girls choosing female CGSE subjects. There was often also a wider culture of sexist attitudes and language. Now, that's a rather vague language right there. Sexist attitude. What is a sexist attitude? What is sexist language? We got to take their word for it here. We don't know what they mean by this. An assessment of the pay gap. See, this is part of the culture of critique, the intellectual audit thing I was talking about earlier. When you hear this kind of feminist language, you got to stop right there and say, well, I don't know. That sounds feminist to me. You better prove it. You better explain yourself if you want to be taken seriously. That's the culture of critique. Okay, these new gender policies have been piloted in a selection of schools already before being rolled out across the country. Janice Callow, deputy head of one of the pilot schools, Fairfields High School in Bristol, told the Sunday Times, "We have always had clear policies on racist language, but now we are making it clear to staff that any kind of sexist language is not acceptable. So feminism has been mandated, and it is now required for teachers in school to enforce feminism. We used to say, 'Man up, cupcake.' We've stopped that." I think that's so funny. I think that's a shame they stopped saying "man up, cupcake," because it's so ridiculous. It makes me laugh. We stopped saying that. Saying "don't be a girl" to a boy if they are being a bit wet is also unacceptable. Language is a very powerful tool. You have to be so conscious of what you are saying to children. All right, and that's the end of the article. Thank heavens. Any final thoughts on that, Nick?
Well, I was part of the generation. I think the first generation where they wouldn't let little boys play with like toy guns. And even my dad in the '60s, he was on a Catholic school. They wouldn't let him sing "Yo Ho Ho" and a bottle of rum when they were playing pirates.
Well, that was a Catholic school. I mean, you got to make allowances. Consider the source.
Well, in any case, it's trying to. Okay, well, forget that. But I was in secular daycares and stuff like that, allegedly secular. I can remember listening to pretty religious music, actually. But yeah, the whole thing about not playing with weapons, and I was listening to Aaron Pitney being interviewed by Sergeant of Cod early this morning, when she would go in the '70s, when she would go and see her feminist friends, they wouldn't let boys even play with like boy toys like Tonka trucks. The boys had to play with dolls and toy kitchen equipment like the girls. They're really this is thinking things out like "man up, cupcake" right out of the vernacular. But I think that's just a continuation of this.
What the hell gives them the right to control other people's language?
Well, they're the same.
Nothing really gives them that right.
No, no, but it's, and you know, like in 1984, Newspeak is the only language that actually shrinks. That's what it's all about. Limiting the words you can say to limit the range of thought.
Okay. Well, I don't think Newspeak would ever actually work in the real world. People would subvert Newspeak. People would start getting creative and inventing new words because that's what human beings have always done. And no reason to think they would stop doing that in the future. But okay, it's fine to enforce these standards on your own children, but damned if we should let them go out and enforce it on everybody's children.
Yeah.
That's where I draw the hard line in the sand.
Well, what you were saying earlier about people subverting Newspeak and subverting there's actually a really great episode of a cartoon called Recess, and it was in the late 90s, early 2000s. And there's a great episode called Whomps. And, the kid gets in trouble for saying a bad word, but they want a word to describe negative feelings. So they say this Whomps. And once the principal caught wind of what the word whomps means, the whomps got banned. It's really great. It was a brilliant episode, I thought.
Yeah, so it doesn't work. I mean, banning words and then banning the euphemisms and then banning the new euphemisms, at some point it fails. You might as well just give that game up before you even get off of square one, in my opinion. And you don't go into the school system or anywhere else and impose your standards on other people's children. We draw a hard line there. We've got to draw a hard line on that.
In my opinion, that is precisely what the school system is there for, actually. That is the express purpose.
Okay, you mean the school system is there for the express purpose of mass controlling other people's children?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I tend to think you're right, Nick. I tend to think you're right about that. So, don't know if we'll get to all of these links here. I'm getting rather tired. I might just wrap the show up here a little earlier than 2 hours, but let's see if we can get in one more article here. This is something from the Washington Examiner. Let's find out what it is. Wait a minute. I got the wrong one there. Gotta try this again. Congressional staffers briefed on campus due process needs. This is from the Washington Examiner. This is an article by, damn pop-up ads. Oh, God. Why me? Okay. Oh, this is by Ash Scow, our good friend Ash Scow, who writes so many wonderful articles from the Washington Examiner. All right. Congressional staffers briefed on campus due process needs. Because due process rights aren't apparently considered when discussing campus sexual assault, congressional staffers on Monday had to be briefed about them by the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, known as FIRE. And by the way, they're the good guys. FIRE staffers Joseph Cohn, Shelby Emmett, and Samantha Harris met with congressional staffers to discuss the lack of due process rights afforded to college students accused of sexual assault and provided analysis of current legislation on the subject. FIRE discussed the need for accused students to have access to the evidence against them because such an obvious right is currently not afforded to college students, and the elimination of conflicts of interest among campus investigators. Currently, the person investigating a sexual assault claim can also be an advocate for the accuser. The person investigating the sexual assault claim can also be an advocate for the accuser. Now, I call that a conflict of interest, producing a clear bias for an allegedly impartial investigator. See, thank dear colleague for this. Fire also asked the staffers to reconsider the preponderance of evidence standard, which requires campus adjudicators to be only slightly 50.01% sure that an assault happened to deliver a guilty verdict. This means that they can find a student responsible when they're 49.99% sure the assault didn't happen. And let's face it, most of those cases, they're not going to have that much evidence. It's typically going to be he said, she said, because a lot of these cases are just that and a little more. When coupled with other protections like active representation of counsel, the ability to call witnesses and cross-examine them, and the right to cross-examine an accuser, the preponderance standard might not be as damaging, Fire told the staffers. But these other protections do not typically exist in campus sexual assault proceedings, where use of the preponderance standard jeopardizes fundamental fairness. When discussing the right for students, accuser and accused, to have access to the assistance of counsel, Cohn described the current process as making no sense. It's like having a surgeon in the room who can't actually operate, Cohn said. In some schools, students can have an attorney present, but the attorney can't participate in the hearing or do anything more than occasionally whisper to the student. At many other schools, students can only have an advisor from the school who has no legal training and may have little knowledge of the campus hearing process. It's a sad state of affairs when Congress has to be briefed about constitutional protections, but here we are. End of article. Well, it's just more of the dear colleague blues that we've been hearing so much about, and hopefully that's all going to end when enough young college men sue the crap out of enough universities that something's got to give. And exactly what the timetable for that is going to be, I couldn't tell you. But all I can say is the sooner the better. And yeah, I hold feminism responsible for things like this. Feminism is implicated in all of this. Oh, Nick, anything you want to say?
No, just that, this shit just depresses me. I mean, what pisses me off is that so many people go along with it.
They do. They go along with it. They don't see, they literally, incredibly, don't see what the problem is. They don't see what the problem is. Or maybe they do see what the problem is, and maybe they are lying, like you say, Nick. Maybe they know perfectly well what the problem is, and they're just pretending that they don't know what the problem is. Either that, or they're incredibly stupid. But it comes down to two things. Either they're crooks or they're schnooks. And you're going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, you can say they don't see what the problem is. They do see what the problem is, and they're lying, or they're just the kind of personality that doesn't see a problem with individual rights being removed. As they see themselves as the in crowd, correctly see themselves as part of the in crowd that doesn't have anything to worry about as long as they toe the line.
They personally have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, they're just bored fucking sellouts. They'll always toe the line.
That'll never happen to them. or so they believe. But what if it does happen to them? I mean, it could. I don't know if I would spare them any sympathy or not. And with that, I got to admit I am tired. I think it's time to wrap up episode number 69 of the Vanguard Report. We didn't quite make it to the full 2 hours, but that's okay. So we didn't make it to the full 2 hours. We went 1 hour and 45 minutes. But here we are. So, everybody, email address at the Vanguard Report is vanguardreport@usa.com. That's Vanguard Report, one word, Vanguard Report @usa.com. Send your love mail and your hate mail. Whatever it is, we love it all. Nick, you want to add any closing remarks?
No, just like to remind everyone that I'm always easy to contact here in Edmonton, Alberta. Drop me a line through mensrightsedmonton@gmail.com, or go to the website, go to the contact us section, and you can see what kind of zany exploits we get up to on my YouTube channel, Men's Rights Edmonton. Have a good one, everybody.
Have a good one, everybody, and like we always say before we sign off, remember this. Never forget this. Feminism is what we say it is. That thought will turn the tide. That's what the non-feminist revolution is all about. Feminism is what we say it is because we are reclaiming reality. We're part of reality, even if we're not feminists. We're still part of the real world. And we're taking back our voice. We know what feminism is. We know what feminism is. We're not stupid. Feminism is what we say it is. Okay? That's it. Everybody have a good week. We'll see you again for episode number 70 of the Vanguard Report. That's it for today. Ciao.